Despite Donald Trump's best efforts to censor his own niece and her book, which is gonna end up coming out on July 14th, turns out that he can stop the info from being published. His niece Mary will be publishing the book, Too Much and Never Enough: How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. And look, we all know what kind of person Donald Trump is. So honestly, I'm desensitized to his cruelty. I've become like so jaded by him that nothing surprises me. But we do learn some new details about his cruelty and how he treated his own brother, who has since passed away. That's actually Mary Trump's father. So Mary Trump claims that Fred Trump destroyed a young Donald Trump by targeting his ability to develop and experience the entire spectrum of human emotion. I think that that's demonstrably true. Also, Donald Trump had a good relationship with his father because, quote, his personality served his father's purpose, Mary Trump wrote, adding, that's what sociopaths do. They co-opt others and use them toward their own ends, ruthlessly and efficiently, with no tolerance for dissent or resistance. And she also writes, by limiting Donald's access to his own feelings and rendering many of them unacceptable, Fred perverted his son's perception of the world and damaged his ability to live in it. There's more, but I want you to jump in, Cenk.
Yeah, so Fred Trump, Donald's dad, is, by all accounts, a monstrous human being. And you almost feel sorry for Donald Trump as you read some excerpts from this book, because his father is so grotesque. So this is the same guy who went to a Klan rally. This is the same guy who the government said was doing housing discrimination, and they were right. He had to pay a fine. He was very litigious, as Donald Trump is, but even he had to concede, yes, they were definitely trying to make sure black people did not live in their buildings. That's the environment that Donald Trump grew up in. But even so, that's worse on a societal level. But on a personal level, he seemed to rip down any sense of self-worth that they had, and it wasn't just against Donald Trump. And so, you know, I'd say on the show all the time that his dad must have called him baby and sad, and that's why he writes that in the tweets. I now realize, having read some parts of the book that have come out, no, he mainly actually did it to Donald Trump's older brother, and he tore him to pieces. And it is very likely why he became an alcoholic, the older brother, and why he wound up dying at a young age of 42. I know it's some pop psychology, but it's backed up by his daughter who wrote this book, who, by the way, is in the field of psychology. And I think the older Trump brother, you know, honestly just wanted to escape life so he could be done with his dad. His dad was apparently vicious to him. You're worthless, you're this and you're that, and he wanted his sons to be killers, but they were too soft. And so as Donald Trump grew up watching his older brother get eviscerated like that, and of course he himself is not very intelligent, Trump, and had to be bailed out by that sadistic father several times as he went bankrupt time after time with the money that his dad gave him. Seeing what he did to his older brother and probably suffering a very similar fate, especially as he had to be rescued by that tyrant. It had to be an incredibly traumatic way of growing up. It's not to excuse any of the monstrous things that Donald Trump did, but you see where the source of it is. It's from the dad.
So just going back to what you mentioned about the cruelty toward, Trump's brother Fred Jr. So media writes that the Trump family allegedly sent Fred Trump Jr. to the hospital alone on the night of his death, and that no one went with him, including Donald Trump, who allegedly went to see a movie. Man, that part is just like so devastating. I think that's probably the only part of this story that just makes me sick to my stomach, to die alone like that and not have your family be there for you. Regarding Trump as a student, Mary Trump alleges that Donald Trump paid someone to take his SAT exam, which then helped the president gain admittance as an undergraduate to the University of Pennsylvania's prestigious Wharton Business School.
I do declare. All right, so on this one, Let me give you a big old, of course, I told you, okay? So I once challenged Donald Trump to a $1 million bet on who had better grades at Penn. He never took me up on that bet because he hides his grades. Why does he hide his grades? Because he's a dummy. He's threatened to sue anyone who would get his grades, not only from Penn and Fordham, where he originally went to school, but also his high school grades. Not only civil lawsuit, he threatened to take criminal action and have people arrested if they try to find out his high school grades. You know what that tells you? Dummy 101, total dumbass. But the second reason for that is it goes towards who he actually is, a spoiled little brat. Yes, his father was vicious to him, but he bailed him out in every way. He gave him everything. He gave him $413 million. He got him into those schools. He got him out of Vietnam with a fake doctor's note. You remember that as well. And so is it surprising that someone else took the SAT exam for him? Of course not. So of course it's not surprising. How could that dummy ever pass get anywhere near a decent grade on the SATs? That's why his grades in school are disastrous, because he gets into the school partly because of his dad and the money and influence he has, and partly because of the fake SAT scores. But once he's in, it's a debacle because he's not prepared for it. He's not intellectually capable of it, and he never does any homework. He doesn't read past the page. So that's why it's an absolute disaster. And okay, the reason I wanted to go after his grades is to show you how spoiled he is. And that's what this proves as well.
So one final thing I want to mention, I'm going to go to the last graphic here. So Trump's just gross, and his statements about his own daughter and how attractive he finds his daughter has led to a lot of Trump dunking because it sounds like he's lusty for his own daughter. Well, in this book, Mary recounts how when she was 29 years old and wearing a bathing suit and a pair of shorts to lunch at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, her uncle looked up at her and remarked, "Holy ish, Mary, you're stacked." It's disgusting.
Who tells their niece that they're stacked? I mean, he's such a bad guy, man. So look, at the end of the day, yes, it confirms some of the things we already thought about Trump and his dad. Yes, it gives us a little bit of insight into how he, on the makings of a monster, right? It doesn't excuse anything he did. But the funny takeaway that I have from the book is don't envy the rich too much. Like, man, have they got their own problems. Like Fred Trump, actually his dad got rich running a whorehouse in the West. It's a literal story. You Google it, you check it out. He ran a brothel, and that's part of how he got wealthy. And by the way, I respect that more than anything Fred Trump or Donald Trump ever did. And then Fred Trump got way wealthier, which he handed off to Donald Trump, by being absolutely vicious to everyone in his path. But then he wound up being vicious to his own family. So no thanks. I would much rather not have that wealth. I'm ecstatic that I grew up in a middle-class family where my parents were wonderful and decent to me instead of these monsters. So yeah, Trump got everything handed to him on a silver platter, but he also got his neurosis, his narcissism, his sociopathy, and every other failing he has also handed to him through his family. When you sign up for a spend and save account at aspiration.com/TYT, we will plant 10 trees. Let's save the planet together.